Hello everybody, Silverbusters here, coming at you with another video. Want to apologize a little bit for not being around as often. I am in the process of moving, which if you've ever done it before, you know is pretty hectic, and like 2/3 of my stuff is in boxes, and it's going to be a process to get everything set up in the new place, and getting the internet service transferred and over and all of that good stuff. But enough about me. Let's talk about silver and the going ons in the world of the last couple of weeks or so. Obviously, in the last 2 weeks, we've had the fall of Kabul, which kind of aligned itself with the 50-year anniversary of Nixon's closing of the gold window, the end of the international gold standard in 1971. And some people say that it's symbolic, that it's, another stage of the end of our empire, lining up particularly with the calendar in such a way. And we do really have to take a look and see what a military decline, or at least that there's parts of the world where the United States cannot project power. In Central Asia and the whole Russia, China, Afghanistan sort of zone there. I don't really see America being able to project power into there. First of all, if you know anything about American military power, I'd feel a whole lot less concerned about the United States in a naval war, or a war where there's a lot of air power involved, and naval crossings and things of that nature. That's why the first thing that happened after Afghanistan is like, oh, Taiwan. Oh no, China's going to take over Taiwan, and they still might try. But the whole idea of launching an amphibious invasion, if Taiwan falls, it will be because they collapse internally, I think, not because they are militarily invaded. It's just because making that transfer, all of your ships are exposed, all of your men are exposed while they're in the ships. You have no solid lines of logistics when you're landing, and everything is that much more vulnerable. And the U.S. fleet can concentrate rather quickly. We've got stuff scattered all over the world, but it's a lot easier to deploy a easily mobile ship than it is to deploy a ground-based, mechanized infantry unit across the world. So yes, there are concerns about the decline of the U.S. military. I don't really think that has to do with beating the U.S. tactically, because this was more of a strategic blunder more than anything else. Really, we didn't have a lot of reason to be in Afghanistan aside for getting revenge on terrorists that attacked the country 20 years ago. And there was a lot more efficient ways other than a 20-year occupation to accomplish those goals. And I think this is going to have a negative impact on American prestige and the global economy as a whole, because people are going to start considering alternatives. It may not be, it might not be everywhere and all at once, but the drip, drip, drip of declining U.S. power is real. And what's going to happen more often than not is not necessarily U.S. military forces being beaten. It's going to be someone actually sitting back, doing the math, looking at the weakened status of the economy, the accumulation of the debt, the precarious nature of the reserve currency, and saying, we can't afford it. We can't sustain this effort. That's why we have to pull out. We might have another reason that is the headline reason, the excuse that we make. But the truth is, we just don't have the excess resources. We don't have the money to burn on these flights of fancy in foreign territories that we used to. And it's just another sign of the times, right? If we're talking about how it's going to relate to silver, Obviously, if you have a more chaos in the world, you're going to have more of a flight to safety trade. And if, let's say, you're in US dollars and you're just kind of shaking a little bit, you're a country that's got most of its foreign reserves because they do their international trade in US dollars. Well, maybe you want to hedge that a little bit. Maybe you want to start picking up gold. Maybe you want to start picking up silver. If you're a big company, you're going to start worrying about your supply lines. You're going to say, well, can I count on, uh, getting the materials that I need from A to B? First off, it's just ridiculously expensive if you look at the shipping costs of the container ships, all the backlogs they're attempting to fill them, and there's just not enough ships, not enough crews, not enough ships, and then I guess the bottlenecks due to the cerveza sickness are just causing more problems in that area. So all in all, we're looking at a situation where we're getting into a less stable, more chaotic situation. And I think in general, that's supportive of all hard assets. Hard assets like gold and silver, they don't have counterparty risk. And then, real estate would get involved there, but it really depends on the territory involved because you may end up owning uh, owning a ghost town or something of that nature with the way things have been going recently in the silver market. So I was just looking over the premiums here. Premiums seem to be holding tight. We did have a pop on the silver price and we got back above 24. It doesn't seem to have held much above 24, but we're seeing a lot more volatility in the price. And honestly, it's noise. I don't think 10 years from now you're going to look back and complain if you bought at 22, 24, or 26. That might make a bunch of difference on the price if you're one of these daily trader kind of people that's trying to swing trade paper contracts. But if you're just somebody that's putting away money for your family's wealth, for the future, for having investment capital in the future, for security during a period of crisis like we very likely are going to be entering in, I don't think you're going to care if you're looking at the difference between a spot price of 22, 24, or 26. Inflation adjusted as a commodity, 24 is a great price for silver. When we go back and look at it historically, I just don't see any reason not to get involved in silver here. And the ratio, gold has actually fared better recently. Since, of course, I go trade some of my gold for silver, and I and the ratio goes up, right? And long term, I'm not really worried about it because here they even included on here, which is nice, 75 to 1. I believe it was closer to 65 when I made my trade. So if I could go back in time, I could trade even more. But really, that's a good sign because everybody says that when gold leads, that's a good sign because what happens is gold starts going up in price and then it gets out of the price range of ordinary people. And then they say, hey, well, gold is too expensive. Maybe I can get some silver, and then everybody starts piling in the silver, and that's when the premiums start going to the moon. Right now, the premiums still seem to be holding in there. We're looking at around $3 over spot. If you want to get a 1 ounce round on fine bullion prices, looking for the cheapest silver available, and really that's the message I have for you is to hang on in this situation, folks, because it's just continuing decline with the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency. The military power, our ability to project military power. Like I said, I don't doubt our ability to protect places like South Korea, Taiwan, Japan, because that would be a heavily air war, naval war kind of situation where the high tech military kind of warfare is to the United States advantage in general. I would say, there's some people saying, oh, they have hypersonic missiles, and yeah, and I don't think we could go against China or somebody like that and not get our nose bloody. I just don't think the difference between the United States Navy and Air Force versus the rest of the world, plus allies in those kind of a situation, is any kind of a thing that could stand up. And there's the ease of deployment issue, but if the dollar goes, all bets are off. I mean, what if we have to mothball a bunch of our fleet because we can't afford to maintain them or sortie them, or we have to come back and deal with the trillions of debt that we have, or we start paying our soldiers in newly printed funny money and they try to send it home to their families and they can't get anything, they can't go to the grocery store, they can't pay their rent with it. That's the kind of situation. It would have to be a strategic defeat, not a tactical defeat, for anything to change in these places. So, and that could easily coincide with a return to some kind of gold or silver standard. Is that wars are expensive. I'd say the main reason we got, besides individual greed, when we got to fractional reserve systems, whether it was a fractional reserve gold system where there wasn't enough gold to back the issued gold notes, it's because various kings, dukes, and nations around the world wanted to fight expensive wars, and they wanted to take out loans, and they wanted to fight the wars, and they wanted to increase taxation without having ever a peasant army rise up with their pitchforks and torches and start attacking the castle because they increased their taxes too much to go on these expensive wars. And it just goes to show you that growth between the banks and the nations is centralized around war, and you can always see their power increasing around war because they want to tax people, stealth tax people from their assets. Even the Americans did it. You had the Continental, and if you were a holder of the Continental, which was a paper asset, yeah, we eventually made good on our debts, but it took such a long time that most people couldn't hold out to wait, and they had to sell their Continental notes at a loss because they needed that money back then. They didn't need it in 10 years or in 20 years. So, and then you go to the Civil War and you've got the greenback, and it's the same kind of a situation where you've got a massive period of inflation attached to a war. So I don't think you can untangle these ideas of wars, empires, fiat currency or fractional reserve currency being debased, the gold standard and silver standard being debased. It's all part of the times currently. But just stay aware and prepared, and look to the future, because I do see us returning to a more sane system. Maybe a different world, and maybe a different system. Might be more localized, and you'll probably be more worried about who your local mayor is instead of somebody on the other side of the continent trying to dictate policy to you, because realistically, not much gets done that way. Most solutions are going to be local solutions in the future, is my opinion, until we really get into the sci-fi world stuff. And then each individual, I think, is going to have so much freedom and access to power in the long run that a centralized authority is going to kind of going to be laughed at, right? Because the easiest way for a power to discredit itself is to make a law that it can't enforce. And it's getting more and more desperate in those kind of situations, especially with the cerveza sickness. The various mandates around that seem to be all of these threats of, yeah, we're going to do this to you and that to you and that to you, and then various states and localities around the world are saying, okay, come and try. And nothing is happening in that kind of regard. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna try to relax after my stint of cleaning and packing stay fighting the good fight. Good time to pick up some more silver. If you haven't, check out Wall Street Silver on Reddit. Subscribe, hang out with the all the apes online, and just jump in. There's a lot of information here and a lot of cool folks involved, and they're growing. Somebody said over 150,000. Yeah, that might be a slight exaggeration, but it's trending up. So I'll see you guys maybe after I finish my move or after they get my internet hooked up at the new place. But anyway, good luck to you, and I'll see you in the next one.